Not every wedding story begins with a scandal, but sometimes, not even when it starts with a perfect note, the echoes of one slip right into the melody. Let me take you back. It was a wedding draped in warmth and peach, a perfect spring afternoon where the air itself felt like it had also RSVP'd. Chris, the groom, my cousin, stood tall, proud, and sharply dressed, waiting at the altar. Lauren, the bride, was an angel in silk, an Asian beauty walking in grace, her dress whispering along the aisle like a gentle breeze on a warm summer day. The bridesmaids, stunning in soft peach, lined the aisle like blooming roses. The groomsmen stood in black tuxedos, white shirts glowing under the golden-stained glass. And then, the music began. Young girls, my cousins, took their places with trembling poise. They cradled violins nearly as big as their dreams. Our 15-year-old cousin was at the piano. What happened next was nothing short of holy. The piano began, a melody so tender it felt like it spoke. It said, "I am yours, you are mine. We pledge our hearts to beat as one, forever." No words were sung, but somehow everyone heard them. It was only later I learned. This was the debut public performance of that composition. Their first time playing it publicly. Their first time ever. As their tiny fingers played, the doors opened. Lauren entered. The entire church let out a breath that sounded like awe. And if music had a race, a color, a creed, it dissolved that day. Because what we saw was unity. What we felt was harmony. The vows were exchanged. The ring slid on fingers now trembling with devotion. When the pastor said, "You may now kiss the bride." Chris had to lean deep. He was 6 foot something, Lauren barely over 5. But when their lips met, time paused. And just like that, it seemed the story was written in gold. But as you know, darling, some stories have chapters that don't begin until the after-party. The reception was exquisite, warm candlelight, clinking glasses, and laughter. I reconnected with Chris's sister, a bridesmaid, and we shared stories from high school, chuckling like teenagers again. Then came the speeches, and then the toast. The maid of honor, elegant, composed, rose to speak. "Lauren," she said, "you've been my friend for so long, it feels like forever. I know you'll be a great wife and mother." And then her gaze shifted. "Chris, I know you'll make Lauren happy, just like you made me happy in Las Vegas." And just like that, silence. You could hear the clinking of ice in untouched drinks. Gasps fluttered across the hall like startled birds. Some mouths hung open. Some eyes darted toward Lauren. Others whispered, "Vegas? Was she his ex? Why is she here? Why is she the maid of honor?" Questions, but none answered. Lauren didn't flinch. She simply held her glass and smiled. And Chris? He reached for her hand, interlaced their fingers, and gazed into her eyes with a reassuring half-smile. That was the moment I realized. Sometimes the truest vows aren't spoken at the altar, but in moments when silence screams and you choose to hold steady. Years passed. Chris and Lauren built a life most would envy. 2 children, 1 girl, 1 boy. At a summer barbecue, Chris once joked, "I've made one of each. Don't need to make any more. My work here is done." Everyone roared with laughter. Their daughter became a radiographer, saving lives. Their son is now deep in the world of artificial intelligence, designing futures the rest of us haven't dreamed yet. They danced through seasons, School plays, family dinners, bedtime stories, and silent arguments. But they danced. The toast in Vegas? It became just another layer in a story with many layers. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe it wasn't. But it didn't matter. What mattered was what came after. Because sometimes, even when the music of your beginning carries an off note, what you build in the bridge, what you carry into the chorus, can still become a masterpiece. So if you're sitting there thinking your love story must be flawless, let me remind you, flawless isn't the goal. Real is, resilient is, beautiful is, despite the questions. This has been Yendi Lance telling you the stories you feel, but don't always say out loud. Subscribe. Share your story in the comments. And remember, sometimes the wedding isn't the beginning or the end. It's the opening note to a complicated, breathtaking song.